Hello friends, today I want to talk about negative thinking. Now, we get into this rut somehow in life, believing that we're not good enough, that there is something wrong with us, that we are broken in some way. And this can come from many different angles. It can come from the world outside of us. We're being told, we're given this message all the time that there is something wrong with us and we need fixing, which is absolutely false. But we can also have this within ourselves, because when we don't get things right, when we don't feel good enough, when we may fail at things, we end up thinking that there is something wrong with us, and how come everybody else can get everything right or do everything right and be perfect, but we can't. And it's easy to end up that way, especially in today's world where you've got social media blaring at you all the time, blaring perfection at you all the time, and it's not real. I even get that way. Trust me, I get that way myself as well, and I have to turn that nonsense off. But negative thinking is a normal, natural human experience, just like everything else. Everything that we do is. And even recently I came across a post of, actually it was from a website, a religious website, stating that, when you teach someone to fully feel their emotions and to sit there and be present with themselves, that is a new age thing. And I thought, that's just silly nonsense, to think in that way. We've been experiencing fully, feeling our emotions fully since we came to this earth. We've always been able to do this. There's nothing new about it. But this is what suppression is, isn't it? Telling people that this is not normal and don't get to know yourself and don't go within. That's bad for you. Just follow us. We'll tell you what to do. But negative thinking is perfectly natural, a perfectly normal aspect of yourself. But we can get into these patterns because everything is a pattern, really. Thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And we don't realize that we're in these repetitive patterns over and over again. And this is the same with negative thinking. There are normal thoughts, normal everyday thoughts that you can have. I've got to remember to get toilet paper, and then you go to the shop and you don't get toilet paper, so you can be a bit critical of yourself. Why didn't I just write it down? But this is just general everyday, stuff. You don't even need to worry about it. General everyday thoughts are things that everybody has. It's no big deal. It's like something just popping up into your conscious awareness, saying, remember this, do that. Oh, what a beautiful bird. Oh, isn't that nice? What a lovely day. But it's nothing to be concerned about. Now, there's a reason why I tell people, do not ignore your thoughts. And it's because your thoughts are coming up into your awareness, telling you a story, telling you about what's going on within. And if you take the time to be in observation of your thoughts, it will lead to a resolution. But this is the problem we have. We're having this cycle of negative thinking, critical thinking going on in our mind and also in our body, and we don't like it. It doesn't feel good, so we ignore it and we push it away and we keep going on with our life. That's not going to resolve anything. Ignoring something and suppressing it and not dealing with it doesn't actually make it go away. Resolving it is healing it, and then it'll go away. It may come back in the future, but that's just inevitable. We all get in these patterns, right? But your thoughts coming into your awareness, you have to be in observation of them. You don't need to, what is the word for it? You don't need to analyze. You don't need to fight. You don't need to resist what you're thinking. You don't need to think that you're a horrible person. It's like you need to stand outside of yourself and ask yourself, what is this saying? What is this showing about me? That is a very important question, by the way, that you ask yourself. What is this showing me about myself? What is this showing me that is happening within? What can I see? that needs resolving, that needs to be resolved within myself. Because these things are coming up within us to show us, hey, something's here. Something needs your attention. So if you are pushing it aside, ignoring it, and not paying attention to it, guess what's going to happen? Eventually, the knocking gets louder. It's like the voices are coming up and knocking on the door and saying, hey, pay attention to this. And you're not paying attention. You're not opening the door. You're not being honest with yourself. You're not asking yourself the important question. And if you keep ignoring, the knocking becomes louder and it becomes more prominent. So I'm going to give some examples, my own examples of what I've done in the past, and something that I learned not too long ago that was even a better help. So I'm going to use the one of criticism, and I've used this one before. So this is an external thing, by the way. There's this criticism that goes on within yourself, and then there's the external criticism. Both you can be in observation of. So I've caught myself on a number of times over the years being critical of my partner. Okay, he's not doing this right, he's not doing that and right, he never gets this done. And this is cycling over and over in my head. And all of a sudden I become aware of it. And I go, oh, I'm being very critical right now. Oh, what's this all about? And I'm being critical of him, by the way. This is just a projection from me. It's not about him. When you're being critical of other people, it's not about other people. It's about yourself. It's coming from within you and you're projecting it outwards. So then I stop and I go, oh, what am I saying exactly? And I'll sit there and I'll go, oh, he's not doing this right, he's not doing that right, he never gets this done. Oh, what's this reflecting from me? What's this saying about me? And then I go, and I sit there with it, and I sit there and I just am present with myself, and I, just relax into my body and feel what is going on. And then I'll go, oh, I'm being very critical of myself. That's what this is showing. And I'm just projecting it outwards into the outside world. Oh, what am I being critical of myself about? Oh, I'm not doing the things that I really want to do. I really want to do this, but I'm not doing it. I never get it done. I'm not spending time doing it. And they go, oh, that's what's going on. And the thing is, when I do that and I resolve it, then it's no longer there. I stop being critical. But it's an eye-opener. When you stand outside of yourself, literally, kind of figuratively, you're standing outside of yourself, you're observing what's going on instead of being critical about what's going on. All those thoughts were about criticism, but really the criticism was about me and what I wasn't doing. Now, many years ago, I was working with a lady, and she was doing the same thing, but it was all this internal attacking, self-attacking. I'm not good enough. Oh, why do I bother doing this? Why am I here? Why do I get everything wrong all the time? Etc., etc. Now, this was a common theme going around in her mind all the time. She could never do anything right. She was always acting this way. She was always feeling this way. Why am I doing this? Why do I do this? Why do I bother with that? Okay, so this was going around and around and around. She was never resolving it. To her, it was just who she was, and she couldn't do anything about it. So I got her to sit and ask some very important questions to herself. Because sometimes, especially when we're not used to really connecting with our body and feeling it, which is another very good exercise, by the way, we really need to ask ourselves the questions. So if you're saying constantly, oh, I never get anything right, then sit with that and ask yourself, what exactly am I not getting right? What exactly am I not getting right? Because the answer will be a lot deeper than you think. And it may come from many years ago. It may come from your childhood. When I've done this with myself, this is where it's come from. My teenage years or my childhood. Oh, I can never get anything finished. Why don't I finish anything? What exactly am I not finishing? What exactly am I not getting right? And if you allow yourself to sit there with it and be present with it and feel what that's like in your body, the answer may come to you. And it may come to you in the form of a memory popping up into your mind. And then you can go, oh, that's where that comes from. So this lady was very critical of herself all the time. Unresolved patterns that just kept going around and around in circles. And it was when she sat down and asked herself these important questions and allowed herself to sit and just feel what was happening in her body at that time that she got to answer the questions. And this is what resolves it. Not ignoring it, not suppressing it, not pretending, going back to work and then just, getting on with your life, because it's going to come back. We need to resolve these things. Why am I so useless? Why don't I get anything right? That's the first one. What exactly am I useless with? What exactly am I not getting right? Maybe you say, I just don't like myself. I can't stand it. I just don't like myself. I don't like anything about myself. Well, then you sit there and you ask yourself, what exactly do I not like about myself? Because we get into these repetitive patterns of saying these things over and over again, because this is like a recording in our subconscious, just going around and around in a circle until we become aware of it and we ask ourselves the question, or we want to do something with it. So it's got to keep going around until you disrupt it. You need to disrupt the pattern. So when we're in these repetitive patterns, we are not fully bringing out and expressing what is going on. We're keeping it inside and we're just going back to our lives. But if instead we disrupt the pattern and we are ready to voice what is actually going on, hey, I'm thinking these thoughts. What thoughts am I thinking? What are these thoughts actually about? We're disrupting the pattern and changing the loop. It's the same with when we're feeling our emotions, and we might be just sitting there feeling and we want to express ourselves. We want to talk about what's going on. All right, sitting there talking about it we're going through this description, but instead we can just sit there and feel it. And then we can say to ourselves, hey, I'm feeling really sad right now. I'm feeling a lot of sadness right now. I'm feeling really angry right now. I need to express some anger right now. And the thing is, that totally changes what is happening within the body and in the brain and lessens the impact. Try it. Try that. By the way, that was an experiment. And I've always done that. I sit there and I feel, and I just say, I'm feeling a lot of sadness right now. And I just allow myself to feel it. That was an experiment that was done. And 50% of the people were told to name what they were feeling. And it dramatically lessened the emotions that were going through their body. It put a switch to it, basically. Disruption. Brilliant stuff. Now the second example. The second example is about conflict. Thoughts about conflict. The first example was thoughts about criticism. Okay, so I was driving to work one day and I caught myself making up weird stories in my head about conflict. And these thoughts were going around in my head every single day as I was traveling to work. And I would catch myself doing it. And I'd do that thing, where I'd push it aside and stop thinking about it. And I just keep going on. Stop thinking that, stop thinking that, stop thinking that. Like that works, right? So one day I was driving to work and I caught myself making up these stories in my head, all of these thoughts about conflict. And I still do this, by the way, sometimes. I make up stories about conflict and then I have to stop and go, what's actually going on there? What's all this conflict about? And this is what I did on this day as well. What's all this conflict about? Why am I always thinking about conflict? And it so happens when I sat there and asked myself that question, what is all this conflict about? What is all this conflict within me? Because it is within you. Remember, everything is coming from within you and it's been projected outwards. So all of this conflict was actually about when I was going to work, there was this person there that I was reacting to. And he was a bit overbearing at work. He was overbearing to everybody. And so I had a problem with this at the time. And so because I wasn't dealing with the problem at work, I would become very frustrated and a bit annoyed as I was thinking about it on the way to work. And this would bring up all this stuff about conflict. And in these conflicting scenarios I had going on in my head, guess what? I would always have the upper hand of the conflict. Yes, that's right. I'd always win the conflict. And even now when I have these kind of, conflicting stuff that comes up in my mind, I now stop and I become aware of what's going on. And I ask myself, what's all this conflict about? Where is this coming from within me? What am I in conflict with? Because you will only find that the conflict is within you. Even if you're looking outside of yourself and you're seeing the problem in everybody else, it's really all about you. And you can see this not only with yourself, but you can see it with other people in your life, in relationships. If a person in your life has a lot of critical thoughts, just remember, or they're being very critical towards other people, just remember that criticism is really about them. And it's how they're perceiving the world and the meaning that they are giving to it. It's not about you or anybody else until you do it. Then it's about you, and it's your responsibility to pay attention and to listen to the story being told, and then to be really honest with yourself and ask yourself those important questions. Now here's another very good exercise that you can do, and I got this from a psychologist not long ago, and it was really helpful to even me. Okay, because when I find about something or I read about something, I will always do it on myself first. And regardless, I've been having critical thoughts myself. Yes, even myself, we all do it. Critical, negative thoughts myself lately. And I read his post, and he said, when you are having critical thoughts about yourself, negative thinking loops over and over again, sit, close your eyes, relax into your body, feel what you're feeling, and then ask yourself, or picture in your own mind, who this critical talker is. Is it your inner child critic? Is it your inner mother critic? Inner father critic? Is it an old teacher, an inner teacher critic? Who is it? There is this voice within you that is being critical. And when I sat and I did this exercise, I realized that the critic within me, even though it was my own voice and my own criticism about me, the inner critic was my mother. It was my inner mother critic, and I could just feel it. And I all of a sudden realized that the way that I am critical sounded exactly like my mother. My mother wasn't a big talker. She wasn't constantly critical about things. But when she did it, it would just bite. She'd say strange things to me sometimes. Like, I remember I hadn't seen her for a few weeks, and she said to me, the first thing she said to me was, "Oh, Christy Jane, your face is getting fatter. You don't look good with a fat face." Now I can laugh about that. But at the time, I kind of thought, oh, that's nice. I haven't seen you for a few weeks, and that's what you say to me. But that's what this voice inside of me was. It was my inner mother critic. And I allowed myself to just sit there with it and just go through it and feel it. And that feeling just dissipated naturally within me, and I haven't felt it since. Mother, I hope your voice has gone. But that was a really good exercise to do with yourself. What or who is that critical voice within? Because you may think, regardless, it's just your own voice, which it is. Your own inner criticism, which it is. Remember to ask yourself the important questions, which you should. But is there a background voice keeping it going? Is it your inner mother like it was mine? because that's an important aspect of yourself to heal as well. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for listening. If you've stayed this long, please like, I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.